We won't tell anybody.
All right, recording has now started. Art, could you do that again? Wait a minute. Disclaimer. Today is March 9th, 2016. The disclaimer is everything is our opinion and conjecture today. We're not responsible for anything that you do from what you hear in this call, yada, yada, yada. You're on your own. We're on our own. Okay, Art, try it again.
Yeah, like I say, there's a lot of articles out there today, just kind of what happened, where are the notifications we thought we would get last evening or sometime overnight. We were all kind of led to believe that, although they said Paul Ryan would have to make an announcement on the TRNs/USNs until we can go and get actual cash at the currency exchange places, but he didn't do that yet. And then we're hearing that he could possibly do it today sometime yet, although his normal Thursday news conference is where he probably, they're saying, might do it, and we may have to wait another day. Then again, we're hearing maybe not. Maybe something will happen where he'll do it tonight. That's mainly what we're waiting on to be able to really start going, is that particular announcement from what we're understanding, although they say some people are doing exchanges and getting TRNs, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know, it's kind of all over the place right now, and there's a lot of articles and whatnot out there, which just too lengthy to read any of them, really. The normal ones from everybody, and so we're really just kind of quiet. Other than that, we're just waiting in a waiting mood, just all done. What else is there to do? It's all done. I'm sure Stephen will have some good stuff in your special caller and whatnot that we heard a little bit of earlier today, and I'll let them take care of those parts right there. And that's all I'll bring in. I'll just kind of listen in and learn something, maybe. What do you think?
It works for me. Iko, you want to give a little rendition?
Yeah, just seconding everything Art is talking about. From my own direct sources, the only thing I can say is that it does appear that Wells Fargo, and particularly Chase, are completely set to rock and roll. I have a source inside Chase. This person is at an exchange center, and they have been ready to do this for over a week now. And today, they were promised by management that they would be exchanging people before the day is out, and that they will be working 4 shifts round the clock. Basically a shift on, a shift off, a shift on, a shift off, kind of like sailing a boat across the ocean. But she says that their screens are live, the rates are there, the codes are there. If somebody walked in the door with currency that was sent there by one of their wealth managers, she could exchange them for U.S. dollars. Those are her words. Now, conversely, this morning there was a rumor going on that they basically let it go without any announcement. So I ran down to my Wells Fargo regional exchange desk. This is not an exchange center. This is where you would normally go to exchange currency if you were taking a trip or something. Got a good relationship with the head teller down there, who I've gone down and asked about rates maybe 6 times over the past couple of years. And she went looking for the dong this morning. This was 11 o'clock in the morning, Eastern Standard Time, and it was gone from their screens. And she said, that's interesting. That must mean they're doing something with it. And they took it off completely, and they're going to post it later on. So that was kind of encouraging. I mean, even when there's conspicuous non-action, that says a lot. If you look behind what's going on and all of the reports that we're getting. So that was kind of encouraging. And I guess that's really the only intel I've got. I'd like to, after everybody gives their intel and stuff, I'd like to talk a little bit about what my perspective is on the misdirection we've been getting later in the call. But I think that's it for now.
And if you want to ask a question, *2 to raise your hand, and then after we talked with you, *2 to put your hand down. So before we get there, I'm giving people opportunity to put their hand up. We're waiting on Pastor to come in and special caller, and I have no idea if Joseph is going to show up. He just shows up when he shows up. There we go. Well, a few people put their hand up. Well, here we go. Here's a good person. Imperium, are you ready? Imperium.
Sure. Can you hear me, Jerry?
Yes, sir.
Good, good. How you doing, Art? I'm going to say hi to Art, hi to Aiko.
Fine.
Hi, how you doing, Jerry? I have
today. Go ahead.
Yeah, when I got on, I heard that you're having a little kind of a bad hair day. Yeah, I just wanted to, on the heels of Aiko, share a story from a personal friend of mine. I got him involved with this years ago, and like me, he's pretty much monitoring what's going on. And where he lives here in the United States, he was able to access a Wells Fargo bank. He has an account there. And there's happens to be the private side of the Wells Bank is upstairs at this building. Could you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There's a lot of noise going on in the back.
I'm looking to... Oh, Aiko, I think that's you.
No, it's not me, but go ahead and mute me anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay. So, long story short, he started to talk to one of the tellers, and he was actually buying dong from Wells, and he got to know one of the tellers, and she was asking him why he was buying it, and he told her the reasons he was buying it, and that he also was buying dinar. So over the years, he's had casual conversation with her when he goes in to do his private business. She told a wealth manager that is upstairs on the private side of Wells about my friend. And the next time my friend went in, she brought him to that manager because he wanted to talk to him. The manager wanted to talk to my friend. So basically he asked questions, but he never volunteered information, and he acted very kind of ambivalent about it all. Well, fast forward to 2 days ago. My friend calls me at about 5:30 in the afternoon. He tells me he's standing in the parking lot at that bank. He just came out, and that lady that he's friends with, or that he made friends with in the bank, was very excited and said there's a lot of exciting things going on in response to his question of, I hear there's a lot going on. And she said, yes, there's a lot going on. Lots of new changes. She said, very, very exciting. And he said, this week, I hope. And she winked at him and smiled. Now, remember, their relationship is in the context of a currency exchange. So he called me as soon as he walked out of the bank, and I just wanted to pass that on to you guys. That's kind of out of nowhere, another confirmation that things are happening as we speak. That's it, Jerry.
I had myself muted. That was with Wells Fargo?
Yeah, that was with Wells. And this is a location that has a private side Wells upstairs. They're not affiliated, but except through the umbrella. But it was easy access, so he had access to the manager. So these tellers in the bank somehow are privy to something that's going on.
I can work with that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for bringing that in.
Yeah, and I'm gonna hang here as long as I can, Jerry.
Absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and just, unless you got a mute button on your end, I'm going to mute you on this end.
I can do that. All right.
Okay. Thank you, sir. will the man in Puerto Rico give us the 411? Come on down, Mister.
Hello. How are you, young sir?
How you doing today?
We're really good. Let's start with some false flags that are about to be available.
I'm good for a false flag. What do you got?
Well, the United States Navy is doing a rendezvous with the Chinese in the South China Sea right now. It's supposed to be all about China bringing up a bunch of missiles into the islands, starting with the P, the Pandera or whatever. Anyways, so we got a whole fleet of ships, carrier, destroyers, going that way. So that's going to be one of the false flags that we're about to hear. Hopefully, that really all that is just a transfer of gold out of China.
That is not a false flag. That's what you call a party. They just don't want to tell you about that because, China's built that little man-made island out there, and they're all going to be singing Kumbaya and drinking Budweiser.
Yes, sir. And you know what? If they didn't only know that blue moon is so much better than poison.
Well, that's true.
In the meantime, Zap was supposedly financed, and everything's all good with him. So the bigger question is, why did he put out a distress signal last night for some funds? And I'll tell you why. Because Landa puts their hands on the way we all do, and we're all waiting on the same thing. We're waiting on the USN notes to be properly handed over to the American people, and Landa's the same as we all are. I love you, special caller, and all the rest of you on the team. But the point is if it was true that Landa and Zap and all them received a big old $100 million plus, I'm sure that some local bank, tier 2 bank, even would give a $10,000 loan to help them go through. But in the meantime, truth is that we're all waiting on the same thing. And in the meantime, as we reach forward to receiving that, which is coming, as we all know, that life is about to get a whole lot better. Without saying a whole lot, I'm looking forward to next week for the trickle-down effect to really ramp up. Remember, we had some problems last week, and those problems have been dealt with. So now it's time to let those people who are going to be the ones who dealt with the problem that came in, people with new ties, okay, new suits that have never done this before. Let them learn what they're doing. It takes about, 4 or 5 good transactions to become a professional. I'm sure if I had a job and I did 4 or 5 of you guys getting you through the bank in a matter of an hour and a half, that I would be more professional. So having said that, I'm going to call right now that Thursday is looking good for Zap to get his clearance on his funding, like he says. But in the meantime, he's still waiting just as well as we all are on Principal Ryan to come in and say, listen, we're a brand new country. We got this new currency. We're going to exchange it out on a corporate dollar that doesn't matter anymore because they're defunct. And let's go from there. I do expect to see some of us in groups to get processed through the starting of the next week and or before. The hope is always before. But in the meantime, that's an RVGCR report from me.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Well, Iko, I think we have reached that magical moment. What do you think?
Hold on. Yeah, I'd say we have. So you want me to start?
Absolutely.
Okay. So everybody who's on the call and on the internet right now, what I'm about to say is coming from a place of love and service and respect for everybody who is trying to sort this thing out. I think ever since last Saturday at 12:02 in the morning, when the ping went around the world in 53 seconds, that we have been in the position of being able to exchange. Now that said, every day something got in the way. I think that sometimes what got in the way were the bad guys trying to pull a last-minute deal. I think sometimes what got in the way were the good guys trying to prevent the bad guys from pulling the last and final deal. But the amount of misdirection, misinformation, outright lies, outright deceit has been astronomical. And we are getting regurgitated intel from dozens of people claiming to know or claiming to have a source, and we are probably being manipulated by by two separate entities. One has good intentions, one has bad intentions. The architecture of this event, the planning that is some feel centuries old on behalf of China, has finally come. We finally come to the end. We are going to RV real soon, and it could be this afternoon. I mean, the latest we got is that we're going to get notifications between now and 6 p.m. tonight. And that could be true, and that could be more hogwash designed to keep us interested but also complacent, and not get to the point where we are rioting in the streets, which I believe is a definite concern right now of the power structure in the United States. We hear outrageous claims about the government change. At least, I say they're outrageous claims about the government changing overnight. I believe the government is going to change, but it's going to change according to the rules and procedures that are already established but not being exercised, because we've got so many idiots. We've elected them. We put them there. I include myself in that. There's a lot to get fixed, and it's going to take time to fix, but it is going to get fixed. In the meantime, while we wait for this RV and we wade through the hip-high crap that we're being subject to on a daily basis, the one thing that you will probably have noticed, because a lot of people on this call take the intel and come up with their own conclusions on it, is that we seem to be getting closer every day to an actual notification. And that seems to be the operative word now. It's a notification. Like I said earlier, the big banks, they're ready. They're all set. There's nothing standing in the way, except these final maneuverings. And I'm going to repeat myself, but I want to make the point that these final maneuverings are both by the good guys and the bad guys. And eventually, the good guys are going to win. The RV has to happen because the world economy is now showing serious signs of decay, stress, collapse, weakness. I mean, you name it. There's nobody out there. There are some people out there saying we're okay, but the majority of people, even in the mainstream, are saying we're not okay. All of this points toward the RV, and if you've never heard it before, the whole game here is to stabilize the oil dollar so the world can function properly for the next 100 years and go through a transition of not only economics but of spirit, of cooperation, of political agenda, of world famine. I mean, you name it. This is what this is setting up for all of us. So, you know, I'm rambling a little bit, but I'm touching on all the bases that I see occurring. And the bottom line is, regardless of what you heard about the rates, if you have one 25,000 dinar note, you've got the opportunity to become a wealthy person. You know, if you have 1,000 million dinar notes or dong notes, or maybe 50 zim or a bricka zim, you're wealthy beyond your wildest dreams, even at the international rate. So I just want everybody or I would ask everyone to relax, let it come about. Try not to get too wrapped up in the current intel. I'm guilty of this. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but I haven't made any predictions in the past week. Once I saw what happened earlier last week, I said, you know what, this is just I'm setting myself up for a credibility deficit, and that's how I feel. So I would personally like us to discuss that today. I'd like to know what other people think about the information, about where they're at personally with this venture, and hop off the Intel merry-go-round. I guess that's all I have to say for the moment, which was probably too much.
Oh, no. Let me put it to you this way. And Imperium's right. I'm having a bad hair day for one reason. Exactly what Iko was talking about. It's reached a point to where uh-oh. Hold on, Iko. Is that you?
Yeah, mute me out if you would.
Well, you can. You want to mute your phone on your end? That way, if you
I can't. Hold on. I got to walk into the other room and do it. Just
sure.
A second here. Okay, I will mute out.
My bad hair day is Iko and I had this discussion before the call even, and even my Blue Moon doesn't taste good. I took a drink, I popped the top, took a drink, and I stuck it back in the refrigerator because I didn't want to be accused of alcohol abuse and pouring out a good beer. This is just my personal opinion. I think that maybe a group of 3 or 4 or 5 people are disseminating to the majority of us that are blessed to have higher up intel people, and they listen to all these calls, all of them. I'm sure from the day that this account was first set up and was broadcasted, they've been recording and listening to it. There's no doubt in my mind. I appreciate everybody that's coming in, because without it, we would have nothing. Hold on just a second. Okay. Anyway, we must have somebody new in. Let me check here. We do. Pastor Steve, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing really good. Sorry that I couldn't get to the phone and get called in time. Just
No. Iko and I were just having a discussion about. Hold on. You're kind of noisy there, so I just muted you for a second. I wouldn't call it bad intel, just disinformation, and it's reached a crescendo, and so we just have to be careful now. You know, there's a lot of people, not just here, but other calls, other websites, other forums that have been calling it pretty regular. We all need to step back and just take a moment for it. Let me, where did you go? Uh-oh. Oh, there you are, right there. Go ahead, Pastor, you're unmuted. Hello, Pastor.
Hello.
Yes, sir,
Hello.
go ahead.
Yeah, well, I just came on and didn't hear what you were saying, but when I discussed that this morning with a couple other people, and I agree, but you can only give what you get. So people that hear, we've been saying this the whole time. It's rumor tell. It's not guaranteed information. So you just give what you get, and then let people make their mind up, try to get a hint, and stay away from calling it as much as you can. It's just so you can keep your sanity and have peace. You don't want to give your peace up. It's not worth it. So we just need to chill. It's here. So it'll show up when it's good and ready to, and we're on the precipice of it, I believe.
And now that whenever I hear you, it gives me a chance to sit back and reflect. This is, now that I'm getting my faculties, I'm so disgusted today, Pastor, that even my Blue Moon didn't taste good. I took a drink and put it back in the refrigerator.
Good.
This is a struggle between good and evil, and
Absolutely.
It's all about that, and it's also about power and money. Power and money. And the fiat dollar is the money maker for the cabal. And the Chinese saw that a long time ago, and they put a plan in place. I truly believe they did that to help break the back of the cabal and maybe bring a change for humanity. That being said, also, Pastor, there's a lot of background noise there.
I'm sorry about that. That's all. Just mute me when you're talking.
Well, let me try this.
If I could help it, I would.
Oh, no, you're good. I got a little tool here that I think I can. I'll do this. It's all, they've got their money maker. Nothing stays the same forever. Had to get back on track there. That's in the Bible. If you look at it, even Rome didn't last forever. During the time frame we've been waiting on for this blessing, if you go back and look at the time frame of World War I and World War II, it would have been fought and over with for both of them in less time from start to finish than what we've been waiting on this, because it's about power and money. They don't want to give up. I want people to think about this. And if I'm beating a dead horse, hang up, and I'll be able to tell. And I apologize if I'm going on a rant here, but we've been enslaved. Back in the 1800s is when it'd been thought of before that, but the 1800s was when it was really kicked into gear. And then this last 8 years, it has really come down hard on us. And I like to give the redneck version because I'm just an old country boy. We are nothing but wage slaves. Think about that. I did what I was making back in 1980 before I retired from mechanicking. I was making, maybe $4 or $5 more above that. But inflation, because of the way that the cabal set up the inflation of the dollar, actually decreased everything that. Please don't text me right now, whoever it is. I'll get back to you in a minute. We're not making any more money. We're making less with more laws to tax us harder and harder and taking away more money. A good mechanic, and I want to talk about this because this is an area I understand. A good mechanic nowadays, back-breaking work, And you can even compare it to construction. Even if you're in a supervisory position, if you're making $50,000 or $60,000 a year, it's really nothing. And they want to keep you underneath their thumb. And the way to do that is with the control they have. Depopulation, I firmly believe that. You hear so much about the vaccines and what they're putting in them. Mercury, great big killer. I better not. That's on a whole nother subject. John, I see you in here, Oklahoma City. Would you like to add to this?
Sure, I'll talk. It's been a gut-wrenching ride for me. I added up, let's see, it's been November, December, January, February, March. It's been 12 years and 5 months, roughly, for me. In fact, is today the 8th or the 9th?
Today's the 9th.
3 more days, it'll be 12 years and 5 months for me. And so, I'm ready to get off the ride. It's like there's a lot, in this whole deal, there's been all kinds of disinformation that's coming out, and we used to get this information and got all excited at the very beginning, like it was going to happen tomorrow, and this is way back in the very beginning. And then you get to the point where it's like, okay, when it happens, but you can't, it's like I won't say it's a drug, but at the same time, the hope that we have of this happening keeps our attention. And the Bible says that hope deferred makes the heart sick. And what I'm hearing in the voices of some men that I've heard so far, and I haven't been on here the whole call because I was on another phone call, I'm hearing some sick hearts. And that's the work of the devil. And I know this is going to happen. There's no doubt in my mind that it's going to happen. The problem that we've all had is the when. And I'm sure if I'd have had my druthers, it had happened, a whole lot longer ago. But then I wouldn't have become the person that I am today. And Jerry, neither would you. Neither would Iko or Art. There's things that we've gone through that have helped shape us into who we are today. And I don't know about anybody else, but I needed that shaping. And so I continue and hope and believe that this is going to happen and believe that I'm going to get to step into the dream, the vision that God gave me a long time ago when He started telling me what Psalms 37:14 means about delighting yourself in Him and Him giving you the desires of your heart. I wanted to say the other day when I raised my hand several times, but there's a bunch of people ahead of me, and I had some of those had to do, but you can't put new wine in an old wineskin. And what we've all experienced, those who try to stay attuned with what God is trying to teach us in our lives, we've had our wineskins renewed, and we're ready for the new wine. And I hear the commitment that so many people have with what they're going to have and how much they want to do for other people. And I just can't help but believe if God has a proudful bone in His body at all, He's proud of every one of you. So just hang there. It's been tough. And I'm getting emotional right now because I want to be somewhere else with somebody else. But I can't right now. So it's going to happen. We just got to hang in there.
Okay. Let's hope is what gives us hope. Just like you said, hope deferred kills the heart. I know this was gonna happen because 1 minute, please. I got to check an email. It's important, so give me just a second. If you're listening, could you come in, please?
Talking to me?
No.
Okay.
Just raise your hand and I'll bring you in if you can. If you'd like. Anyway, hope is what sustains the heart. When I was 7 years old, it was just put on my heart that this would come to pass. I'm not going to tell you the whole story. Hold on. Go ahead, Philip. Philip.
I'm coming in now. I just want to grab this real quick. Hold on just a second. I get it. And here. I was ready for you, and then I was listening, and I started browsing around, and I got lost, but here I am. I wanted to bring this out to the folks. If you've got a piece of paper and pencil, people, I'm going to go real slow with this. This is for you guys that like to do the digging. All right, I'm going to bring something out right now that some people's not going to believe. But the one thing I like about the Wing It call, I was just saying that, is the honesty portion of the Wing It. These folks here are not trying to look for some way to get money out of you guys for a bunch of donations for their own personal pocket. And the bottom line is that we're all doing the same thing. We're trying to help one another, to keep one another sane, and at the same time bring out good information. So I'm going to go real slow, and I'm going to bring out some information to you. All right, here we go. The United States Treasury is now the International Monetary Fund. Now, you may not think that I'm telling the truth, but I'm going to give you some facts. The United States has not had a treasury since 1921, and this is a paragraph. So open paragraph 41, stat, S-T-A-T, period, chapter 214, page, period, 654, close paragraph. I'm going to repeat that real quick. This is from the 1921, paragraph 41 stat, chapter 214, page 654. I'm going to give you a second bullet for those of you guys who are diggers of good information. The United States Department of the Treasury is now the International Monetary Fund. This information comes out of the Presidential Documents Volume 29, number 4. The Presidential Documents Volume 29, number 4, page 113 from the 22 USC 285-289, close parentheses. I'm going to have one more time from the Presidential Documents Volume 29-4, page 113, comma 22 USC 285-288, close parentheses. And the International Monetary Fund is a subsidiary of the World Bank. Okay, so just for you guys who are good diggers of information, I stand to see more information about this tonight on the internet. Thank you, Jerry.
Philip, if you'll send that to me, I'll try to figure out some way to everything that you just talked about to get it posted somewhere, okay?
I'm on it.
Thank you. Go ahead, Joseph. Thank you.
Can everybody hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Pastor Steve, are you on the line?
No, he had to drop off for a minute.
He had to drop off, huh? Well.
Yeah, he's actually was taking his house guest back to the airport.
Oh, okay. Well, we've had some interesting developments. Obviously, there's been a lot of things written. That's interesting. They're playing with me on my email a little bit. Okay, well, Jerry, I received an email. Did you get the email I sent you?
Yes, I did. I didn't know.
Okay. Yeah.
I was reading it. Yeah, I was reading it, but I wasn't going to bring it on the air unless you wanted me to.
Yeah, I would bring it on the air. I think it's pretty tight from everything that I understand. So, and I contributed a little bit to it. So, but there's a lot of contributors in that. So, if you want to read it to the audience, I preface everything that use your own discernment. This is rumor tell, and not everything you're hearing you might agree with or like. But you can file it away as truth or disinformation or whatever you want to file it away as. But nonetheless, if it is so, it's important for you to understand and know prior to its coming out.
Absolutely. Art had sent me a little bit about that in an email, not quite as that was very detailed that you just sent me.
Yeah, there's a lot of people on that one, so I get that from time to time. So I forwarded it to you for the call, so I'll let you read it. How about that? Your call, you read it.
So this is what was sent to me by Joseph, and what like he says, use your own discernment. Listen but verify, and because we're all struggling. Don't grasp at everything. Just listen. So it says, new Republic President of the United States, Paul Ryan, will be making a prime-time address to the nation very shortly, announcing his appointment as the 45th President of the Republic, as well as the selection of General Joseph Dunford, former intern Republic President, as his Vice President. This peaceful transition of power falls within all established constitutional guidelines, and thus everything should appear normal to both a domestic and global viewing audience, as there is a precedent for a U.S. President resigning, Richard Nixon, in 1974. So President Ryan will first have to announce the resignation of former President Obama and Vice President Biden, who we're told have pre-taped resignation speeches. This is why Obama is nowhere to be found since the State of the Union address, and Biden is suddenly traveling to Israel. Also, this is why the military is on high tactical alert, just in case there are disruptions within the general population over the unannounced Obama administration exit, hence the need for helicopters, deployed ground forces, and heavy transportation vehicles. President Ryan will then announce the closure of the Federal Reserve Bank as well as the new U.S. Treasury issued gold-backed currency called the United States Notes. It is in U.S. bank vaults and ATMs now and have a 1-to-1 exchange ratio. Again, nothing out of the scope of a rational, eventual, unordinary, just the way the elders prefer to handle everything, subtle and understanding, but truthful and transparent. President Ryan will be making a few other changes, which we have yet to lock down exactly what those will be. It is anticipated that Ryan's speech will come either Wednesday or Thursday evening at 8 p.m., and those of us following the RV can look for Redemption Appointment 800s to be released simultaneously through the internet, the phone, and email as President Ryan declares the gold standard and new USNs publicly to the world. This is considered the surrender of the cabal. Note, SKR accounts are also scheduled to be released at this time. Private groups like those lumped together in Reno, as well as the Internet group, are now scheduled to begin physical redemptions starting at 7 a.m. on Friday, 3/11/2016, and go through Tuesday, March 16th. With bank, branch, or a mass public redemptions beginning as early as March 21st, start of spring. Continuing for exactly 1 month. Notifications to subgroup leaders are coming. International and contract rates are great, so get in early, do your business, because rates will be going down, not up in the future. Friday, April 22nd, has long been the day we understood the new gold spot price, and this is in parentheses, benchmark standard for all currency values, will be announced at the Shanghai Gold Exchange. This would mean the entire RV process took exactly 1 year from when the TRNs were first allowed to be traded and allowed to go live on bank screens, therefore constituting the official beginning of the RV. Let me read that again. Friday, April 22nd has long been the day we understood the new gold spot price will be announced at the Shanghai Gold Exchange. This would mean the entire RV process took exactly 1 year from the TRNs and were first allowed to be traded or allowed to go live on back screens, not bank screens, back screens, therefore constituting the official beginning of the RV. This is why so many have said the RV is done, and yet it's not. Again, be flexible as dates and times are fluid, given the importance of guaranteeing security for such a hyper unusual event. As for the presidential race, eventually Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton will bow out either for health reasons or because she's being prosecuted for past transgressions or both. Bernie Sanders will be the lame duck Democratic nominee in November's general election. The Republican nominee will not be Donald Trump, as he will be patriotically stepping aside in the best interest of the country, so President Ryan can and will ultimately be the sitting Republican presidential nominee with full support of his conservative base. I'm tongue-tied, hold on. The Republican nominee will not be Donald Trump, as he will patriotically step aside in the best interests of the country, so President Ryan can and will ultimately be sitting will be the sitting Republican presidential nominee with the full support of his conservative party base. This is why Ryan was given the Speaker of the House position, so that in this moment he would be president, and possibly for 8 years plus his short tenure this term. At this time, it is unclear if General Dunford will also be on the ticket, as he may believe that is doubtful, except the general either to return to his post as chairman of the Joint Chiefs or retire. Any way you look at these upcoming events, it's clear we're in the middle of a historic world moments, very much like the fall of Rome in circa 476 CE. Yes, the more things change, the more they really do stay the same. The below link is a musical tribute to the multiple scores who have contributed to this post over the years. And I will post this YouTube link. I'll have my webmaster post it after the call.
Very good. Very good.
Okay.
It's funny because I was listening to you, Jerry, and you said it's much like the fall of Rome, and I'm reading that as you're saying it. So that's
before you sent me the link,
yeah.
or the
yeah, you said it, and I'm reading it. I'm like, well, oh my God, he must be reading the post, and then so that's why I sent it to you.
Well, no,
anyway, guys, that's we didn't just have a fiat currency; we had a fiat government, as it turns out.
Do you have any more?
And they both had to be replaced simultaneously. You couldn't do one without the other, as it turned out. They were trying to do the financial system first, and the fiat government just wasn't having it, so they had to do them both at the same time.
Would that go back to what I was talking about? We're killing their money maker, and they're scrapping all the way to the end?
Oh, they're throwing sand at tanks, man. They're throwing sand at tanks. I mean, they can't conceive a world where they don't run it. They can't conceive a financial system where they're not in charge of printing the money.
I understand that, but I was just putting a relation out there, or an observation that, if this was your moneymaker, would you go down easily, even though you knew it was
right.
It was like peeing in the wind? You're going to get all wet. You're still going to pee in the wind.
That's right. You'll take it to the end, to the very end, to the death, if you have to. And keep in mind, they've had I don't know how many generations of control, going back how many centuries. So it's not as simple as just here are the keys to the kingdom. It was truly a fight, and that's why there were so many beautiful, heroic people that were doing yeoman's work behind the scenes that nobody will ever recognize or know, but they've given us the opportunity to have this moment of freedom. A lot in the military, a lot diplomatically, certainly a lot in the financial industry, and there's been a great deal of suffering to them, as well as us here on the street, at the grassroots level. So we all have scars. There's just no way to avoid it when you're doing such a major a historic transition from really, truly a dark form of control and government and to a benevolent or enlightened one. The Ryan situation is interesting. Remember when the Pope came to town and all of a sudden Boehner stepped aside and Ryan didn't particularly want to step in? Remember that, Speaker of the House? I think it was back in September.
Oh yeah, watched it well. And we're all going, well, I guess the boss came to town and fired somebody.
Right. Well, actually, the Pope signed off on the United States. He signed off on the country. He signed off on the corporate control of the country. And he literally signed back the United States to its own ownership. So, I mean, the events when he came to town were dramatic. And then, so this has been in the works a long, long time. They couldn't get the security quite right. The banking had been done for a long time. So when everybody was reporting the banking's done, this is done, they were all telling the truth. But that wasn't necessarily allowing it to go forward, because from a security standpoint, until they had confidence and certainty that not only could they secure the population of the United States, but they could also, once they started the RV, that there would be no shenanigans that would stop it.
Well, this is just my personal opinion, Joseph, that the SWIFT system was cabal controlled. That was their baby. And until that was taken care of, and we got in this new SIP system, which maybe you can explain that to everybody on the call, that was because then it still gave them control to manipulate the system with the SWIFT still being in place. So it seems like that is going out, or is out the door, and the new SIP system's in place.
You got it 100% right. And they tried to do a peaceful transition of one with the other, and ultimately the bad guys just wouldn't relent. So they had to literally replace the entire system. But the good news is it's been humming and up and running and functional for months. But again, the issue was security. It wasn't banking. We're all looking at this as a banking event, and the true powers that be are looking at this as a government transfer, or a transition of power. Now, albeit it's going to be a peaceful one, and it looks like on the surface it's going to be a pretty normal one, even though you have a president and vice president resigning. You have a normal transition of power, because the Speaker of the House is third in line to run the country if anything happens to the president and vice president.
I want to bring in Iko here, if you don't mind. I'm going to unmute him. Rockstar?
Am I unmuted?
Yes, sir. Yes, you are. Go ahead.
Well, I'll just say it, because there's no beating around the bush. If this in fact happens in the way you just put it, the New Republic is the most naive organization I have ever encountered in my life. If you guys think the American middle class is going to suddenly stomach the resignation of the president and the vice president without any build-up, any prep, any foreplay, that's insane. You're going to have armed insurrections in the streets. You're going to have militias manning up and coming out and firing because they're going to feel threatened that their entire world is coming down. Nobody knows about the New Republic, Yusuf. Nobody. They don't. It's a small philosophy in the scheme of things, and I don't buy it for one moment. I do buy everything else that you said. If you stopped it at the end of Paul Ryan becoming president and then started with all the intel you related after, I see that as completely plausible and a logical scenario. But to, for this to remain a secret, impossible. Just impossible. I'm sorry. I just don't buy it. That's where I'm at. I love you. I love your message. I love your spirituality. But this to me is pure and utter fantasy. So that's all I got to say.
Fair enough.
Let me state my position. I hope it is, but I fear that if for any reason, no matter what the reason given in the taped message from Obama and Biden, that people aren't going to receive it well, and there's going to be riots in the street. Now, I guess that's why we have military to help keep civil order. But if they're resigning and Paul Ryan does take his place, I won't be out in the streets rioting. I'll probably be doing cartwheels, you know, and drinking a Blue Moon.
But others will. And Iko is exactly right. There will be armed militia that will go get their weapons. There will be leaders within certain ethnic communities that will not be real pleased about that transition and think it's a forced exit of the first African American president. You've got real issues. And so, again, I go back to the banking's been done for a long time. We've had major security issues as to why we have not had our RV yet. And, people that have lived their entire life with a certain way of understanding things, it's difficult to accept that kind of change, especially when, if you consider yourself a pretty up-to-date person, reading the news, studying things, paying attention, this is a lot. This is a lot. Again, you don't have to accept it as truth. I'm not trying to imply that any of this is Bible. I'm just offering some consciousness that maybe there's far more to the RV than just walking into a bank and getting some money. A lot of it. And that if truly we were going to have new gold-backed currency and the banks were going to protect our money and give us these wonderful interest rates, then the system that was keeping us from all that long ago would also have to be replaced. That's the theory I just want to put out there to people, that if A happens and B happens, then C happens. And I don't think a lot of people are aware of the machinations of the U.S. corporate government, its history, even the Constitution to a large degree, and how it's been altered and changed. So, here's somebody like Iko that's a beautiful man and doing yeoman's work on the intel world, and that's a very uncomfortable thing that he just said, and he's not, he called it gibberish, basically. And I don't think he attacked me personally, but he was attacking the information personally. And what I've always kind of stood up for is I believe people deserve to know the truth, even if they don't like it. They deserve to know.
There's a gentleman that I've spoken with for the last couple of months.
Hey, Jared, can I say something first?
Absolutely.
Joseph, I think mostly where I'm coming from is I can't see this as a well thought out transition. Mm-hmm. I mean, I have no love for Paul Ryan, but I certainly have no love for Obama and Biden either. They turned out to be corporate lackeys. I agree we need to change our government radically, but this plan, this series of events that's being outlined to us is really what I feel is implausible. Not so much that Paul. I mean, he was placed in the speaker's position. That is, if the vice president and the president disappear, the Speaker of the House is the president. That makes sense. But what doesn't make sense is that they're suddenly going to thrust this upon the American people without notice. I think that's where my fears. That's where my butt is pushed.
Well, it's funny because everybody says rip the Band-Aid off of the RV, right?
Right.
And we're thinking it's some sort of like fiduciary Band-Aid. Like there's going to be collateral damage and people are going to try and steal and this and that, when in reality it was this, potentially as the Band-Aid is being ripped off.
Hey, Jerry, can I make a comment?
Please.
Well, not any disrespect intended, but this is not being thrust upon the people without there having been things said about it. There's been evidence out there for the entire 7+ years that this man's been in office that there was a problem. Without
who's
going
listening
into
to that
details
evidence?
of all, excuse me?
Who has listened to that evidence except a small group of interested individuals?
Let me finish what I'm saying before you jump in and ask another question.
Easy, guys. Easy.
Bottom line is that the evidence is out there, and according to the way things have been done, not the way they should have been done. In a democracy, the majority rules. That's not the way a republic works. The bottom line is that under those rules, you know, whether the majority of people have been paying attention or not really doesn't, bottom line is they go out and vote and they put this guy in there, and I'm not so naive to believe that there aren't going to be some upset people. I believe when all is said and done, based on what each one of us, after the first time that he was put into office occurred, we go around and we check all of our friends. Well, which one of my friends voted for him? And nobody did. And so I think the concern about there being people rioting in the streets and stuff about this, I don't think is there. And as far as it being the transition of things between Richard Nixon and all that stuff, people just accepted it. This is the way the government did things, and that's what they've become accustomed to because of the public school system dumbing down people over time. Now, that isn't true about every one of us, thank goodness. But the fact is, most people aren't paying attention to this stuff. They're just interested in going to the soccer game and doing the things that they do with their family and making sure that I've got a case of beer when I get home on Friday and that kind of stuff. Nothing against beer and Friday or anything like that. Nothing against that, because I enjoy that stuff myself. But the bottom line is that's where most people's minds are. And
that's my problem. There's no advance notice. That's why there'll be panic. That's why there'll be riots. That's why there'll be shootings. That's why we'll end up declaring martial law.
That's why there's. Well, no, I'll
tell you.
I think
I live in southeast Pennsylvania, and there's 241 militia groups within 20 air miles of my house who when 9/11 happened, they got up and they were armed to the teeth and ready to rock and roll. And if this happens, they're going to be right back there. Only this time, it's an internal threat. It's not terrorists. It's
got a different
somebody's
scenario,
taking over their government. Yeah, somebody's taking over the government.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not taking over the government. It's transitioning the government to.
Well, is that how it's going to appear? Is that how it will appear?
Well, I guess
who's in charge of the PR on this thing?
we might find out. You know, there was a time, Iko, where you felt that there was a time where you felt that there was going to be fiat to fiat exchanges, right? So that when we went in to the bank. Now, do you still feel that way?
Yep. I absolutely do.
Okay.
Because China's in control of that, not the U.S.
Right. So if you were going to replace the financial system, would you leave the government in place that had caused the problem in the first place?
Yes, because there has to be. This is where I'm coming from. There needs to be a transition. I'm 100% behind that. Our government needs to go. I'm 100% behind that. But it has to be an orderly transition, or we're not going to have
being done. That's what's being done.
But how is that being done when 99% of the U.S. population has no clue?
You're pulling that number out.
That's
not necessarily a true number. There's probably a whole lot more people that are aware of what needs to be done. They just don't know it's being done. The ones that are aware that it needs to be done are probably stand up and cheer. There's probably going to be a whole lot more people cheering when this happens than you realize.
I would agree. In the middle of the country,
quiet.
They're going to be standing up and cheering. In the industrial Northeast, in the electronic West Coast, they are not going to stand up and cheer. They are not.
Well,
I mean,
that's your opinion.
Because I'm one of them. Because I'm one of them. That's why.
Well, the choice of Paul Ryan was an international decision. The bottom line is it wasn't just the Chinese that chose him, but yet at the same time, the guy that was chosen had to be somebody that internationally could be agreed to on this, because we still have to play on the world stage. But there are other people who are behind this decision also. You can study and find a lady by the name of Anna von Reitz and the stuff that she's written and what's actually been done. One of the statements that she made was that they chose Dunford to do the military, and they chose Paul Ryan. And the Chinese happen to be the money bags behind this, and so it's kind of, you need, whoever has the gold makes the rules is the new version of the golden rule. But the bottom line is that they're just as interested as the old golden rule about treating other people the way you want to be treated. And so,
well, what's wonderful about this discussion is that we're having it. It's like yes. You know, it's almost like an intervention. You know, it's time to address the real problem. The banks certainly were a problem, and they're being addressed. But there's far greater problems in the United States than just the banking. Okay,
that is absolutely true.
And ICO, these are not easy concepts to comprehend. However, before they're completely dismissed, I would just engage in some rational discussion about it, because you know they've made preparations for those militias you speak of. They're very aware of where everybody is, what everybody has in terms of arsenal. They've been on the ground through special forces, blending into the community. They've been on full tactical training practices. If you're in any kind of large metropolitan area, look up at anywhere from 6 to 9 p.m. and you'll see an unusual amount of helicopters circling in formation in training exercise. You're going to see ground troops traveling on the road for deployment. You're going to see unusual things if you're just paying attention. And I've seen, just so you know, just in my area, I've seen as many as 22 helicopters up at any 3-hour time frame, different helicopters. So, you know, from the information that I'm getting from my military kind of contacts, it surprised me. I had a hard time accepting. I could accept the Zim. You scrape 6 zeros off the 100 T notes, and that's somehow worth, you know, a lot of money. I could somehow accept that, but the Republic aspect of it, I struggled with that for a long time. And it really hasn't been until the RV was so drastically delayed that I had to come to grips with the security issues of transitioning government. So I'm right there with you. I wasn't an early convert to this.
Yeah,
nor was I an early convert to the currency.
Well, I'm not like I said. It's not that I don't want it to happen, but I just feel that, and of course, as dear old Ray Wren would say, time will tell. But I just think that if this is how they decided to transition in government, it's amateur hour, and we got the wrong people at the helm.
Okay.
I agree the government needs to be changed, but if this is how they're going to do it, then I got a problem with that. And why is a philosophy that preaches goodness and openness and support depending on martial law and military strength? You're done. I just pulled it off. You know, that's my question. That's my question.
Well, it's funny because I think they're doing the exact opposite. I think they're doing a very peaceful transition and trying to provide support and kind of security for that we don't hurt ourselves, versus when we defaulted on our loans through international court 2013, and Obama signed away the United States to its largest creditors at Rancho Mirage in California,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
you know, that they didn't come in with their planes and their guns and their tanks and do what they're doing in the Ukraine to the United States. Now, if you're looking for something more blatant and open like that, I don't think that's the wisest strategy either, because that would scare the heck out of the population. Then the militias would really rise up, and you would have a natural distaste in your mouth for other countries that are actually really trying to help you stay solvent. We're coming out of bankruptcy, and we're getting new corporate leadership is basically what it amounts to.
Mm-hmm.
Without being a corporation, thank goodness.
Without being a corporation, and technically without a shot fired on our own soil.
Yeah.
Well, this boils back down to what Nathan Rothschild said back in late 1800s. Give me control of a nation's currency, and I care not what laws they make. Well, we're getting control back of our own money with the help of some other world people, because there is no such thing as a foreign country anymore. We're all neighbors. We're just separated by water and man-made boundaries.
And we all need each other financially. China needs us just as badly as we need China, just as badly as Russia needs Europe for the gas sales. And so there isn't a perfect scenario to this, Heiko. And I'm not saying that everything in that post was spot on, dead nut spot on right. I'm saying it's worth the conversation now to start having away from the money, because, to be honest, the economic part of the RV is done, and now we're waiting on the diplomatic part to finish up so that we can go in and exchange.
And I agree with that statement. I just think
I don't know that this is the way. Right.
Yeah, that's it in a nutshell. So.
Right.
And I really felt obligated to speak up about it. So.
Well, you represent. Hold on, Art. 1 second. Art, you represent a demographic of the population that's educated, that's paying attention, that's advanced, and it's still ripping the Band-Aid off.
Yes, it is.
So,
yes, it is.
But at least you're being peaceful about it. You're not going to go grab your gun, whereas your guys, 200 miles into the mountains there in Pennsylvania might do so.
Mm-hmm.
So they've had to make accommodations for this, and not just our own population going against each other, but also the remnants, the rogue factions of whatever's left of this insanity that's been running our country for the last nearly 200 years.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at. I've got a family member who commands a nuclear bomber wing. I come from a military family.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think what he's going to do when he hears this.
He probably already knows.
If he is, well,
he doesn't talk.
I hope.
He might be working on it.
I hope so. Because I hope he already knows. But at least he's been briefed.
Here's something else.
Because I'm wondering how many haven't been briefed.
Right.
Here's something else, though, that's been seasoning the people, is the things that have been going on in the Northwest. With the government, or those that are standing in as though they're in the government, showing their rear end, what the government really wants to do to the people. So the people are being seasoned with all that stuff as well. For this
as well as all the false flag events,
exactly.
With the African American population in Missouri and different parts of the country, even the Flint water crisis in Michigan, I think had there was timing to that catastrophe that was the ball originated, and they don't do anything without planning it, years in advance. So they've been planning a kind of get the people to revolt against their own best interests, which is what if people in the mountains go take up arms against other U.S. citizens, that's basically what they're doing. If this is truly a benevolent transition, right, and not just one bad guy transferring power to another bad guy.
Exactly.
And that
Art, did you have something you want to bring in?
Yeah, I do. Militia's known about this a long time. Matter of fact, I used to listen to Drake Bailey 3, 4, 5 years ago. He's an old codger up in the hills of West Virginia. He has a radio show 3 times a week, and he had the militia on there. He had the head of the Texas militia on there and said, we can't wait for this government changeover. The militia's behind this total thing throughout the years. So, Michael, you're going to find that out, that they do know about all this. And John is right. The things that which happened with what's the guy's name out west, Bundy. Those sort of things won't happen anymore. Yeah, those sort of things won't happen anymore. Huh?
Yeah. Lavoy Finicum was the last situation.
Yeah, and those things won't happen anymore with the kind of government we're supposed to have. This has been in the works a long time. Drake Bailey he said he was supposed to have part of the 40 or 45 hours that's supposed to be on the emergency broadcast system explaining all this to everybody, and plus everything that's been withheld from that our government has withheld from us, all the secret space program, the secret government we've got, all that stuff's supposed to come out and educate the public, and they're going to be told, if Yosef, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's supposed to be 40 or 45 hours of education for the public to go watch all this and learn. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And Art, they always use that as a threat that they would break in with emergency broadcasting if the Chinese and Russians didn't get what they wanted to on a variety of other geopolitical remapping issues and government issues. So fortunately, we're still going to have that information pocket, but I don't think it's going to blurt in the middle of the national news. And they had, Iko, just so you know, they had Chief Justice Ryan actually do a pre-taped announcement instead of Paul Ryan, in case it really got to that. So they've been using the RV as a weapon in negotiations because the cabal's sucking wind just as bad as the rest of us on the street, and they've made sure of that. I just find it fascinating that they're both going to come out together almost to the day 1 year after we found out the TRNs were live from ZAP in April 2015, I think.
Right. Well, one thing I want to address is that different regions of the country hold different revolution beliefs as well. I'm close to the militias here in Southeast Pennsylvania. 2 of my best friends are leaders. I guarantee you they don't know about this. I guarantee you.
Ask them.
And the fact that we have to resort to the emergency broadcast system. See, this is where I have a problem. This is not being managed correctly at all. You don't want information coming over the emergency broadcast system. The emergency broadcast system is for earthquakes and nuclear attack. That's what people think of in the emergency broadcast system. Where the information has to come from, maybe it has to start with smaller television stations and media outlets, because we know that the big guys are controlled. The big media is controlled. Maybe it has to come out on national public radio that everybody thinks is a bunch of commie faggots broadcasting. But and I'm exaggerating there, but that's the laugh line, isn't it, about public radio? But it's got to come out of some place where people can begin to absorb the information and not get it dumped on their head like a bucket of cold water. You do that to me, I'm going to turn around and put my foot up your ass. I'm sorry, what?
I think the EBS was a plan B. I really do. I don't think it was plan A all along, but they had to have something for plan B if plan A wasn't coming together.
Yeah, that's true. That's all true. I'm just worried about the style they're doing it in. I'm just worried.
No, they're worried too. Trust me, they're very worried. And you have to consider the scope and the degree of fight in your enemy, right? So we have to we're normal people. We don't think in terms of running the world and setting up the power structures and the military mechanisms to defend it or overtake people. So we don't think in normal terms. But I've always heard the phrase that if you want peace, you must prepare to go to war. And I think the emergency broadcast scenario and the 40 hours of education, that was always in preparation for going to war. And even if you're benevolent, you still have to stand up to the bullies. And in this case, the bullies that were running our country, they did 9/11 the last time we were going to do a major financial transition. So that's the scope and the depth of the opponent, right? Know your enemy. And they really don't like us. They don't like the average person. They think we're sheeple. They don't like humanity as a general rule. And just as a futuristic kind of, put this in the back of your head, the transition of government in the United States will be nothing compared to what is revealed and disclosed to you in the future, all of it.
And you know what? And I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with any of that. I'm just coming back to, I wish they'd hired music consultants.
Yeah, exactly. But again, you represent an educated, alert section of the country, and it's still unnerving. You know what I mean?
Oh, sure. That's my point. Leadership. Even in the revolution, the leaders have to be. What's the word I'm looking at? The leaders have to be respected. They have to. Your troops don't want to be led by somebody who they think is an idiot. How many second lieutenants got fragged during the Vietnam War? It's in a life and death situation, which this is going to seem. This is what's going to seem. It's going to seem like to the American public. In that situation, they want to know that whoever is in control knows what they're doing, and I just don't see it. I don't care if the guy's a Joint Chiefs of Staff. I really don't care. It doesn't necessarily mean he's qualified to run the United States. And Paul Ryan is not the brightest bulb in the lamp. It's just I don't know. I think I've probably said all I can say that's worth saying about this. It's going to be real interesting to see what happens over the next few days. That's
but you represent a lot of people, Iko. You're speaking for a lot of people, not only on this call but to read the transcript. So again, it's good that we're having the discussion because when Charles Lindbergh spoke out about the banking system and the government, they took his kid. And you can go back and read some of the transcripts of what Lindbergh said during 1913 when they rammed the Federal Reserve Act in the middle of the night on Christmas Eve underneath our noses. So, I don't particularly know the specifics of everything that they're going to do, but I can tell you this. When I look at the current political landscape and I see who they're rolling out there, I can tell you that nobody of any serious merit thinks they're going to be president because none of them are running. Trump's an entertainer. Hillary's as corrupt as there's ever been in politics.
Yep. So, Hillary's a product of her environment. Absolutely.
Right. So
hey guys,
these are the two not.
The special caller is here.
Oh, good. I'm gonna mute because I'm making dinner. Listen, everybody, thank you for listening to my perspective on this. I know it's all going to be good in the end, but I really want it to go as painless as possible, and this doesn't feel painless. That's my final thing. So, but I'm just another voice in the crowd.
Thanks, Iko. Special caller.
Good afternoon, Yosef and Aiko and you. Good afternoon.
Hey, guy.
How are we doing today?
We've
got some upset people. Special caller.
Why is everybody upset?
They're not. Some people aren't real thrilled with the government changing without their previous understanding or lead up to it.
Well,
which is
obviously, if
understandable.
the Chinese didn't think that it was a good decision, they wouldn't have done it. And their better interest is the Chinese has everyone's better interest at heart. I can tell you that. And a lot of us knew the second that there was an administration change that meant that this was over. We all knew that.
So when did it really happen?
When
did it really happen? Yeah.
Well, I was told last night, but from what I've been told, Trump and that's all just a bunch of actions. That's just all a bunch of stuff just to divert everybody's attention from what's really truly going on. And Hillary that's a whole nother story. The Clintons, that's a whole nother story. She'll get the nomination, but she won't go. It won't go far. It won't go past the convention.
So here's a question for you. What faction of the Chinese? Because people need to understand that. That's why I'm asking that.
What exactly do you mean?
Is it the regular Chinese government we're talking about, or are we talking about something different? The power behind the power.
No, it has nothing to do with the Chinese government, from what I'm told. It's the Asian elders and the Chinese elders that are bringing this to pass. And people, if they're upset, they really need to not be, because here's why. Because this has been going on for a long time. And if you're disgusted with the government because of what you've been through, really, then that's who you need to be disgusted with, not the change. Because the change is freeing humanity from credit card debt, home mortgage, everything, taxes, everything. The Asian elders and the Chinese elders have humanity's best, they have their best at heart. And that's why this took so long, because they wanted to make sure that this was secure before they let this go. Because every time there's a wealth transfer, you get 9/11 or you get any other security issues that puts us at risk. And they are only doing what's best for us by this decision. And it's a pretty big broad overview if you really know everything and how it leads up to what's coming, what's happened, and how this finishes playing out. Basically, they're freeing humanity is what they're doing, with the gold, with everything that they're doing to free humanity, to level out the playing field so that the U.S. government cannot say, well, okay, President of Zimbabwe, I've got 17% of the IMF, I've got the petrodollar, I've got, the world's reserve currency of the world. You're going to do what I say you're going to do because I'm in control. Well, who does that make sense to? That's not fair. Everyone should be on a level playing field. And that's what this whole situation is about, freeing humanity down to the birth certificate, the social security number. All that is a mess. And that's a completely another conversation that could go on forever. But don't be upset about the change, because the change is the best. They strategically sought out Paul Ryan for a long time. And that's why they took out his predecessor, because he was part of the problem.
Speaking of John Boehner's who you're talking about.
Yes. He was part of the problem. He was a warmonger.
Right. War is money.
No integrity either.
Right. Paul Ryan was sought out because then they knew that he could just slide right into that spot when they took out the certain people that they took out. That's not necessarily what I wanted, but if you look at his record, he did run on the Tea Party ticket, and that's pretty much what some of us are. I know it's what I am, but I mean, he is Tea Party, and that is, I think best for a lot of people, but that's just my opinion.
Right.
Joseph, can I ask you a question?
Sure. I just don't want to get Iko mad at me. He's got a gun.
And well, he should, because he is the sheriff that comes with the voice of reason, and I greatly appreciate he is the balance for everything. The common
Joseph Iko is going to be fine because he's going to be doing the Macarena coming out of the bank here with his deposit slip in a couple hours. So he's going to be fine.
Yeah, but he's a patriot. He's a patriot.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to ask a special caller when he thought we might be doing the Macarena, and you just said a couple hours. My question to you, go ahead.
This situation has been very mechanical. If you know the process, it's been very mechanical, and one domino had to fall in order to make another domino fall, and that's how this process has been playing out. And from what I'm being told, we have one domino left to fall that triggers everything else.
Is that the announcement by him?
Yes.
Okay.
It triggers everything else.
Here's the question for Joseph. Now you're going to have to probably stretch just a little bit, but I'm going to ask this: once gold is dug up and refined the best it can in that particular time period, does it ever go away?
Well, it can change forms. It's one of the great things about gold. It can be melted and hardened and reshaped.
Right.
I suppose it could be burned. I think it can be evaporated. Gary, I think the thing you have to understand about gold is there's more gold mined in the world than human beings are conceiving or have been allowed to even believe. So when people see central bank holdings of gold reserves, there's so much more gold than has ever been told. I mean, the Chinese have been a civilization for 5,000 years, and they've treasured gold. Every Asian and Han, race person treasures gold because they know it has several properties and values far beyond any papered money or currency. So, one day when China and Russia announce their gold holdings, that's going to be a real jaw dropper too for people, especially people that work in the market.
Here's a good question for you. Now we're talking biblical. Whatever happened to Solomon's gold? Where's it at? That's the good question. Where has it been redistributed to?
They're called the global collateral accounts, and they are pooled for the most part. Bingo.
Mm-hmm. Because still to this day, if I'm not mistaken, and I am far from being biblical scholar or knowledge, but it was said in the Bible that Solomon was been the richest man of all times to this point.
Mm-hmm.
So
there was two wealth transfers in the Bible, and that was Abraham and then Jerusalem when all that land was transferred, and now this is supposed to be the third, but it's supposed to be the biggest wealth transfer in the world. Now, correct me if I'm wrong on that, Joseph, but I think that's what I understand.
And these assets, these tangible assets, have been held in trust, quietly hidden away for hundreds of years for this moment. Now, some will say that it's the Saint Germain Trust, or Saint Germain himself, who is an ascended master, is helping push this through with the Kuan Yin. It really depends on how far you want to go with that kind of thinking. However, I will tell you this: per international law, you cannot be a sovereign country unless you have your own assets to back your currency. So for those patriots out there that feel that China's too much in our business, I will tell you that yeah, they certainly have say on what's going on in the United States right now, even in our political arenas. However, there is actual physical, tangible gold that is either given or has been set aside for this moment, for the new republic to rise again. And that is what our currency is being issued off of, is that, that tangible asset holding.
So basically what you're saying is we may not have physical gold here in the U.S. because if we did, it probably would disappear. It's being held in a safekeeping place until people that can be trusted will it ever be transferred here back to us.
And what I'm offering is that was the thinking, and that those assets have been placed into a usable format, into a tangible vaulted format. I'm not going to go into where, who, or how, but the U.S. Treasury, there really is a U.S. Treasury, and it really is gold-backed, and it really is issuing gold-backed currency, and we really do have control over our own currency printing with some oversight and restrictions coming out of China. As all countries have some restrictions and oversight coming out of China.
Here's a good question that just hit me. So did the U.S. corporation actually have to cough up the plates for printing money? Because there's a great big printing place right here in Fort Worth. Have they had to cough up their plates to stop this fiat money from being produced anymore?
Well, nobody's recognizing it, Jerry. So you can print it all you want, but if nobody recognizes it, what good is it?
Exactly.
My understanding, there's no legal authority to do any of that was taken away at the World Court anyway.
That's correct.
That's true. That's true.
So do you think that we're going to, like Iraq, we're going to end up with a dollar coin, or, I've seen that the dollar bill may not come back out because coins last longer than paper money. Do you think we're going to be going back to a coinage to a certain denomination?
No, I think we're getting away from anything physical. Paper, coins, even
all
credit
going
cards.
digital is what I heard. Is that right?
It's all going to be probably off your phone or off of some digital ID card or something. Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
they're even saying now that your driver's license is going to be digital too on your phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, now there's some people out there are going to go, well, it isn't getting away to go into a cashless society. That's going to give the bankers more control, even than what they have now. I'm being devil's advocate here. So how
China has fixed that problem?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Joseph, correct me if I'm wrong here. I'm pretty sure China has fixed that problem with the banking system.
Yeah, from a technological point of view, yeah. They've encrypted it in a way and set algorithms up in a way that anything that's out of the ordinary is detectable and correctable quickly. And if anybody continues on with any shenanigans or nonsense, including the bankers, they'll just take away the banking charter and zero out their funds. It's just over.
Yep.
If you're selling guns, if you're running drugs, if you're doing human trafficking, they'll just take away your account. They'll just zero them out.
Yeah, and this new banking system, the term that the drug cartels are laundering their money. Well, the bankers have to know what's going on, and when I say bankers, I'm talking about way high up there in the nosebleed bankers. We're talking the presidents of Wells Fargo or HSBC, or things like that. Those bankers know what's going on, and so if you want to say, in essence, they're the biggest drug dealers in the business because they're permitting the drug cartel to launder money through their banks, and I don't care what bank it is. And so this new system is going to do away with that and end drug wars and wars in general.
It's already done with. Yeah, it's already done with.
It's already done.
I was told that unless you can move faster than the speed of light, if you're trying to launder money in any way, shape, or form through the new system, you're caught. Period.
Yeah. Can I speak on this for a second?
Sure.
Can I speak on this for a second? Okay. So, Joseph, I don't know if you know about this or not. I think you do. There was a story. Joseph, you may have told me this. There was a story about two guys who moved some money from Boca Raton, Florida, and they had purchased. They started out with the renminbi, and do you remember this, Joseph? And then it
wasn't me. It wasn't me.
They started out with renminbi, and they bought $90 billion worth of Iraqi bonds. And it started out with the renminbi. It went from there to China, and from China back to the U.S., and they ended up with TRNs. And this transaction in the new banking system took 52 seconds.
Yeah, less than a minute. Hey, I remember the story. I didn't give it to you, but and then they did it again and again and again, and so this is how new sovereign bonds are being sold. Is basically what we concluded from that.
So right. It told you three things. One, it told you that the new system is working. It told you that the Iraqi bonds were live, and it told you that the TRNs were live.
So what are we waiting on? So what are we waiting on?
Right.
$1 billion transactions in 53 seconds. Why can't I walk into a local offsite redemption center and get my dong and Zim cashed out? And the reason is it was political and it was military. We had some things to get straight, and it was for our own best interest. I mean, could you have imagined if they hadn't got everything that they had wanted, and we had walked into the exchange and we're thrilled, and we're all running in there with our little, satchels of money, and then there's an explosion someplace, and we happen to be in that offsite. It would have been another 9/11. And that's what they were trying to avoid. And the only way they could
every time.
Go ahead. Well, they needed They needed the complete and absolute surrender of the cabal. Yep. There was no option. It had to be this drastic, and for legal purposes, going back to the thing that the gentleman talked about, that the world courts basically, disavowed the Federal Reserve dollar in 2014. For legal purposes, there has to be a public acknowledgement of surrender, and part of that is the resignation of the top political leadership and of the corporation, and part of that is throwing out the Federal Reserve Bank, Federal Reserve note, and the issuance of a new currency from the new government. And that's why the announcement is so important. And, and
it's China's requirement. It's one of their requirements.
Right. So who's supposed to make that announcement? Chief Justice Roberts? Okay. I mean, that's fair. I suppose people would respect his opinion. He's the Chief Justice of the United States. Speaker of the House? That would make sense if your president and vice president resign, then the Speaker of the House would become president by default, not by election, by constitutional,
And see, and that's what China wanted. That was their whole plan. That's why they strategically sought him out and took out the other guy.
Right.
Line of succession is what it's called.
Line of succession. And you may not like Paul Ryan's politics, you may not like his budget ideas, you may not like a lot of things about him, but he's pretty milquetoast. He's like the guy next door.
He represents the foundation of America as far as a family man and honesty and integrity too, from what I was told.
Well, a lot of the things that he's doing right now is only because those decisions were already made before he took over.
Right. And he was just slotted in there.
And the other thing is, every time there's a wealth transfer, you get 9/11. Every time.
Well, look, we froze the deficit at $18 trillion last March, I think, something like that. I mean, does that just go away? I mean, nobody talks about it. But I mean, we have an $18 trillion deficit. You know, people are holding our treasury notes and our currencies in vaults all over the world in central banks. With, you know, we got to pay up on that. You know, at some
Whose
point.
debt is that? Whose debt is that, though? That's not yours and my debt. We didn't create.
No,
that.
it's country debt. It's debt that they've borrowed, that the Federal Reserve has loaned the government. It's all fake, from what I'm told.
It's called odious
Yeah.
debt. Is what the lawful term is. Odious debt is what it's called.
Right. But in court, for the same reason they threw out the federal dollars, because they couldn't satisfy the debt that they had created, this being the old corporate government, which was founded in 1871.
1871, yeah. And you know, they say all the money is fake except the $1 bill. It's based on your Social Security number and your birth certificate.
Right. And but all of that got released. All of that got released when the Pope signed off.
Yep.
Signed off
when he signed off on freeing us, he freed us from the matrix. Is what he did. We were all under the matrix, and he freed us from that.
Right. Although they controlled us, which is a whole different story. So did they free us, or were they just basically bent into submission in an armbar, you know, of being fully disclosed as being the enslaved?
Special caller?
Yes.
Do you have a little bit of intel you can share with us? And I'd like to wrap this up because it's been a long call.
I mean, there's really nothing else to say. We're really just waiting on the last domino to fall, and once that happens, we're there. And I'm hearing that is imminent.
I read
in 24 hours.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Imminent within 24 hours. I was wondering that myself.
That's what I'm hearing.
Okay.
I read Yosef's email on air and saying that exchanges could start at 7 a.m. Friday morning. So I didn't know if you had heard anything just in the last 10-15 minutes that you could share.
That's pretty much where we're at.
Well,
we're in the moment.
I wish Pastor was here, but he's not. I just would like to thank again everybody who has been listening, and I'm not going to take any calls today. It's been so much to think about and talk about, and I'm going to find a way to get that letter posted on my website. I'm going to talk to my webmaster. Go ahead, Art.
No, I was hanging my transferring from my cell phone to the other phone. I'm good.
Okay. It's a lot to think about. I just thought it was. Iko is a great sounding board. He's a great friend, and we talked about this before the call started to bring in some intel, and then we thought we would just go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off, let the wound heal over, and I guess Yosef was listening in the background, and he didn't know I was looking over his shoulder reading that same email when I said, nothing stays the same. Look at Rome. But without hope, we have nothing.
Faith is the assurance of things hoped for.
We're coming through it, though,
Jerry. That's the whole thing with the cabal. They don't want you to have hope. They're harvesting your soul. They don't want you to have any of that. They want you to be on the welfare. They want you to rely on their big government. That was the old system. The new system won't be that way.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're hours away, guys. I mean, we're hours away. The tone of the call as it started was a bit negative, and yet, the exact opposite is rolling out. And so we're going to have to process a lot of those old feelings that we've been lied to, we've been cheated, we've been bamboozled. We all have to come to grips with it. And if you haven't done your homework on the history of America, the history of the Vatican, the history of the Constitution.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You know, you got to do your own homework here. You got to start asking some really tough questions about why things have gotten so bad, right? We have a healthcare system that doesn't make us healthy. We have an educational system that dumbs us down. We have medicine that puts toxic elements and vaccinations into our blood with mercury. And I mean,
speak of the pastor. Look who showed up. Pastor?
I want to keep hearing Joseph and Robert. I had just got done with my duties.
Stephen, were you on Dave Schmidt's UFO? Is that why you couldn't be on the call, or were you with Reno down at the
Joseph, help me,
doing
Joseph.
the Macarena on the
help
news
me.
in Iraq?
Help me, Joseph. No, I wasn't. I was dropping my French friend at the airport to fly home.
I think you were drinking some Duck-Aid.
I got to say this. So what you did was you sent your Frenchman. He did an ET phone home and sent him home, and that's for a friend of mine that I call ET.
Yep.
ET.
That's what we did. How you doing,
ET,
Robert? How are you, Joseph?
It's going to be okay.
And how are you doing, Jerry McGuire?
We're good. Now that you joined us.
Oh yeah. I'm going to really add 0, but I like adding 0 when I have 2 other people that are much more versed than I. So I'm enjoying listening.
Never leave a man behind. Never leave a man behind.
Hey, Pastor, I'm sure you've had to help families with interventions in your career.
Absolutely.
How do you break really difficult news to people that aren't necessarily expecting it? What's the thinking and methodology in that type of ministry?
The methodology that I use is I wish that we didn't have to go through this, but life isn't always easy. And you're going to have an opportunity now to show what you're made out of. And, if it's a death, you're going to go through grieving. It's a natural process. In this case, we're not going through a death. We're just going through there's much difference than a death, but it still causes a grieving because people are looking forward to things happening. So it's your turn to show up in the shine and to keep your peace and to take what news we get without ruffling your feathers and just be strong and wait. We've been doing good at that. People have been, the last week we've heard all kinds of great news. We've heard all kinds of great news, and our anticipation factor went from 1 to 100. So now you gotta just calm yourself and you gotta be at peace because let this thing come to you. I've heard you say that, Yusuf, and let it come to you. And when it gets here, it's going to be the most beautiful blessing you ever had in your life, unless you take it the wrong way. Let it come the right way, receive it the right way, and then do with it the right way. And if you do those 3 things, you're going to be golden. And things are going to go right for you in life.
A lot of surrender in that, Pastor. There's a lot of surrendering of ego. There's a lot of surrendering of pride. I had a pastor in college tell me once. He said, "Life is change, change is loss, and loss must be grieved." And
absolutely,
yes, we're gaining great wealth, but we're also losing our innocence in the process to realize that we really have been snookered into a completely opposite way of existence that's in our own best interest as human beings. And that's sad, That makes me sad. Happy to catch up. Yeah, it's an awakening, but we lose part of ourselves. We lose a form of consciousness. We lose our identity too, as being poor or not enough or not loved or God's not paying attention to our prayers. I mean, we don't have the excuses we used to have too, and that's changed, and that's loss, and loss must be grieved.
Well, I want to say this I'd like to say this to kind of wrap everything up here, Pastor. I'm glad you came back in. This is a personal for me, and we're talking about all the things that have been done to us mentally, physically, emotionally. I have a 4-year-old grandson. Hold on. And vaccines are killing us. And I can't get it through his mama's head, even with all the information out there, that it causes all kinds of problems, from autism. That's the biggest thing. Autism has went up. Down syndrome has went up since they've started changing the formulas to these vaccines. You know, I'm from the old school. I mean, I went through mumps, measles, chicken pox. You know, wear the sunglasses because you don't want problems with your eyes. The old-fashioned way. Didn't get a shot for it, and I'm fine for it. Now they say you got to have the MMM shot. Well, it's got all kinds of stuff put in it from the manufacturer. They are not in our best interest at all. Neither is Monsanto. Go back and read about. You've heard the term blue bloods. It's because they used silver for everything. Silver forks, silver goblets, silver pitchers. My grandma used to tell me about taking silver coins, real silver coins, and putting it in milk, and it helps to keep the bacteria down. So you need to Google silver and all of its applications. I watch a show called Dr. Pole. It's on the Discovery or the History Channel, and he treats horses with something called copper sulfate. Copper sulfate is a great antibiotic. Google copper sinks, copper tables, zinc sinks, and zinc tables. It's a great, it keeps germs down. But stop taking the vaccine and stop giving it to your kids if you can stop it from happening, because it's killing our kids. Anyway, just something that's very personal to me. I want to thank everybody again for making this call and coming in. All the guests, even though I didn't take any calls, but everybody that talked. I hope it didn't bore too many people, but it's going to give me a lot to think about. So anyway, I'm going to stop the recording and call it a day.
Before you do, Jay, I want to